and to stop the genocide. But the tools, I believe that we do possess it collectively on official level, Arabs and Muslims, peoples and countries. We need to take a decision of the use of the tools. If the Israel did not agree in our statements, and this is what I expected, and to determine our options then. Should we be angry again? Should we condemn? Should we call upon the international community? Should, should we impose sanctions? But what is our practical plan? We are indirect partners in this genocide. We're not talking about a country, but we're talking about a colonist entity, an outlaw regime. We're dealing with settlers, more barbaric than humane. And the problem is not with a certain government or this government and the people who are scared of the previous events. They all working with one ideological brain, sick with bloodshedding, suffering from schizophrenia. Those who we target in our meeting today, and they are the ones posing this problem, and this problem determines the mean, and the mean will be the essential for the success. And we're hoping that we'll achieve success in this meeting, and we'll take the appropriate decisions, not to be as one talking to a thief with the language of law, and with the criminal with the language of ethics, and with the killer with the language of humanity. And the good intention should not be once again a starting point for more killing against both people, the both the Palestinian and the Lebanese people, that has paid for their good intentions. And peace be upon you.
أشكر فخامة الرئيس بشار.
We thank His Excellency President Bashar al-Assad for his speech, and now the President of Malaysia, Anwar Ibrahim, will give his speech. Thank you.
Majesty King Salman Abdul Aziz and Your Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud for convening this important meeting today. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I concur with the many excellent points and recommendations made by fellow leaders. Their views reflect a united voice of the Muslim Ummah, born out of the surge of shared conviction among our people. We acknowledge that the circumstances confronting the Muslim world and the Ummah has been most trying and challenging. Yet, it is indeed highly commendable that painstaking efforts have been made and continue to be made, including summits such as this, so as to find ways and means to put an end to violence, destruction, and misery brought on the Palestinian people and to relieve their long and untold suffering. Israel no longer belongs within the civilized community of nations, and its barbarism demands nothing less than decisive action to safeguard not just the Middle East, but the entire global order. 50 years ago, the world was so horrified by the atrocities in South Africa that the United Nations General Assembly took the unprecedented step of denying its government a seat of the assembly. Israel, however, has gone beyond the pale, beyond reason, beyond humanity itself in its vile and blatant perpetration of genocide of the people of Palestine. These cumulative acts of violence against an entire nation leaves us with no choice but to demand the swift and effective action of the international community, including embargo, suspension, and even expulsion. In its relentless campaigns, Israel has now struck at the very heart of the international community's lifeline for Palestine, by targeting the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees. By barring UNRWA from operating, Israel is causing the collapse of the world's humanitarian response, cutting off the most basic means of survival in Gaza for those who have already lost so much. We must put an end to this continued senseless carnage and take immediate steps to furnish more effective protection for the UNRWA. We must accord better protection for the UN peacekeepers in Lebanon, comprising nearly 50 nations, including Malaysia, who have been attacked and terrorized by Israeli forces. The international community must act swiftly and forcefully. As an immediate measure, we must push, as Malaysia did at the UN General Assembly in September, to impose an immediate arms embargo against Israel. Nevertheless, the severity of Israel's assault on humanity's most basic rules of international compact deserves consideration of a more serious response. For the sake of not only the Palestinian but humanity itself, we must punish and deter Israel's repeated violations of international law and norms. We should therefore build a consensus towards suspending or even expelling Israel from the United Nations itself. Israel's trail of atrocities has already spread into Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. If the world turns away now, this violence will not remain contained. It will ignite a fire that threatens to engulf the entire region and the rest of the world. At the end of the day, the most aspects of our concern are the victims. It is therefore imperative that we redouble current efforts to help rebuild Gaza from the ruins of destruction. Of crucial importance is implementing the plans without any undue delay. We must draw a line in the sand, not only as Muslims, but as fellow humans, united and bound by our fragile mortality and committed to a simple truth, a wish for a safer, kinder world for our children and the generations to come. Thank you.
Thank His Excellency Salam Ibrahim for his speech. And now the President of Mauritania to give his speech. And then Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful peace be upon Prophet Muhammad and his companions. Your Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, the Crown Prince, the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, peace be upon you. At the beginning, I'm glad to extend my thanks and gratitude to the custodian of the two holy mosques, His Royal Highness King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud, and to the Crown Prince, His Royal Highness Crown Prince Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, all the efforts exerted to support the Palestinian cause, embodied by their keenness to hold this summit to continue on following on the outputs of the previous summit and to review different dimensions of the situation. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, despite the outcomes of the previous summit with regards to the situation in Gaza, the demand of the Security Council to take all the necessary steps to bring a ceasefire, and the entry of the humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people, and all the initiatives undertaken, yet Israel continues the violations of the international law and they continue with their aggression and the international humanitarian aid, but also expanded the circle of aggression to reach Lebanon. And the pressures of the international community did not succeed yet, and all the efforts exerted by the Arab and Islamic State to reach a deal of a ceasefire. And the ceasefire uh,
حقه المشروع في إقامة
and empowering the Palestinian people to establish an independent state with sovereignty is a precondition to ensure peace and stability in the region, and also as the nations will regain their confidence and trust. Yeah, Excellencies, Your Highnesses, we at Mauritania, the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, renew our condemnation of what of the genocide that's taking place in Palestine. We emphasize that we remain committed to bring a ceasefire to reach a two states solution as well as the Arab peace initiative, and ensuring our solidarity with the Lebanese people of the aggression they are facing, and also calling upon an immediate ceasefire, supporting all the initiatives that will help us achieve that goal. And as we hold in this summit, we're hoping to achieve success that emphasize our keenness to stop the aggression on both the Lebanese and Palestinian people. The matter to us is a matter of priorities of the nations and the holiness of the holy sites. And thank you and peace be upon him.
أشكر فخامة
I thank His Excellency for his word. I would like to give the floor to the President of the Republic of Senegal for his speech. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most peaceful, Your Highness Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince and Prime Minister, Your Majesties, Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, honorable ministers, ambassadors, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before anything, I would like to thank Allah for having gathered here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to discuss the ongoing situation in Palestine and Lebanon. I think the King and the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for the hospitality and warm welcome accorded us. It is also an opportunity for me to pay tribute to the custodian of two holy mosques for his efforts towards the Muslim countries. Since 7 October, day of Hamas attack against Israel, the Palestinian people are occupied illegally by Israel in retaliation to the aggression, and its dignity is being violated. More than 43 people have lost their lives, and the injuries cannot be counted, most of whom are women and children, including the medical staff, journalists, and workers of the UN who have been killed in the exercise of their duties. Today, the Gaza Strip is devastated by Israeli operation, which count for 80% of its territory with forced displacement measures. Many people have been displaced without resources and in most cases without shelter in a situation, in disastrous situation. In face of this tragedy, the Palestinian occupied territory, including Al-Quds, families have been destroyed, and all that in affront of international law, including humanitarian law and human rights law, which is now taking the sense of ethnic cleansing and genocide. We cannot be silent over that, which will be in contradiction of the human values. We have to act to ensure that these acts and of Israel are not simple war acts. We have to request an immediate ceasefire and a strong response to the aggression. We have to be in line with the United Nations, and there is a lack of reaction from the UN side is not only contribute to the weakening of the credibility of the UN. With that, a mobilization from the side of the Islamic Ummah is necessary. And this conflict is not only a threat for the regional threat, but for the whole Ummah and the international community. Allowing for injustice to continue and question the fundamentals of multilateral measures must be undertaken. We have to protect that in order to move forward with solutions. This is why we are calling for the condemnation of the measures taken by Israel to prohibit UN operation and its Secretary General. This is a violation of the UN Charter and all relevant international laws, including the refugee law, and banning UNRWA from operating in Palestine. OIC must revoke some rights from Israel. Between Israel and Palestine, we must undertake a solution of two states living side by side with Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. With the coming of the international solidarity with Palestine, that will be celebrated on 26 November, we have to intensify our commitment to restore the full rights of the Palestinian people. We have to mourn that day and in the honor of the victims that have fallen down because of the Israeli aggression, to allow for justice to triumph. Today we must unify our efforts in solidarity and Islamic solidarity to stop the suffering of the Palestine people. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'd like to thank the President for his speech, and now I invite His Majesty President Imam Ali Rahman from Tajikistan to deliver his speech. Your Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Highnesses, Excellencies, Heads of States and Delegations, we all are deeply concerned of an escalation of armed conflicts and a dynamic of expansion of their geography as humanitarian crisis in the region is getting worse. The tragic consequences of military operations in the Gaza and Lebanon have placed the region in the face of an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. In light of this situation, we consider the decision of the Israel Parliament to suspend the activity of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the UNRWA, as a blatant violation of the international law. Once we once again call on all parties involved in the conflict to resolve all disputes solely through dialogue and diplomatic means, referring to the recognized principles and norms of the international law, particularly the United Nations Charter. In this process, we do also support the reinforcement of the leading role of the United Nations and any other efforts made by other influential international organizations, including the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, to restore stability in the region. Meanwhile, with the aim to prevent a protracted war in the Middle East, we urge all countries in the region and the world to take effective actions in the spirit of solidarity, mutual trust, and constructiveness. We believe that the real solution to the Palestinian conflict and building just and lasting peace in the region is only possible through the implementation of the United Nations resolutions. Those are calling for the establishment of an independent and sovereign state of Palestine. Tajikistan firmly supports the establishment of the State of Palestine with its capital as Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, based on the borders of 1967. This is the path through which the Palestinian people can exercise their legitimate national rights as an independent subject of the international community based on recognized principles of interstate relations. In this context, it is critical that we give more support with our further efforts to restart the multilateral dialogue process aimed at achieving a resolution to the conflict. It is regrettable that the efforts of the United Nations in this direction are not yielding results. The UN Security Council is unable to achieve a common position due to differing opinions, even regarding the adoption of a resolution aimed at protecting the lives of the peaceful population. Although conflicts and bloodshed in this Middle Eastern region have reached their height, we see no serious and impactful actions taken by the relevant parties to end the conflict. Furthermore, individual parties have adopted ambivalent position and kept silence, ignoring the humanitarian disaster currently unfolding in the Gaza Strip. Alongside this, we express our full and strong support for the continuous attention of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to this issue and its efforts to help the people of Palestine and Lebanon. At this stage, it is necessary for the member states of the OIC to take effective measures based on a targeted humanitarian plan to provide essential and urgent assistance to the people of Palestine. Tajikistan has contributed to this effort as much as possible and is strongly committed to continue its utmost in the future. Tajikistan's proposal at the last session of the United Nations General Assembly regarding the adoption of a special resolution to declare the decade of strengthening peace for the future generations aims at promoting peace and peaceful resolutions of global challenges. I believe that the outcomes of today's summit will facilitate remarkably to the resolution of the Palestinian case and prevent any provocative actions that could drag the countries of the region into conflict and blaze of fire. In conclusion, I would like to extend profound gratitude and appreciation for the host the brotherly kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the traditional warm hospitality and excellent organization of this important summit. Thank you very much for your attention. I'd like to thank His Excellency, uh, the President of Tajikistan for his speech. And now I invite His Excellency, the President of Syria, for delivering his speech.
Excellencies, Highnesses, Honorable Heads of State, Honorable Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have gathered here again to affirm the unity of and solidarity of our Ummah. Unfortunately, when we assembled here 1 year ago, we were demanding an end to violence against the people of Palestine, and our demands were not met. Instead, the hostiles in the Middle East have expanded. At this critical time, I would like to express my gratitude to the custodian of the two holy mosques, the King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud and the Crown Prince and the Prime Minister, His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, for creating conditions to hold today's gathering to address the situation and find solutions. The Kyrgyz people share the sorrow of all Palestinian and Lebanese citizens who have suffered from irreparable losses as a result of this conflict, including families who have lost their loved ones in the violent clashes. Honorable heads of delegations, Kyrgyzstan recognizes the legitimate right of the Brazilian Palestinian people to independence and the establishment of a sovereign state. We believe that peace cannot be achieved in this region until the independent state of Palestine with its own land and full-fledged government is established. The loss of innocent lives, including thousands of children, adolescents, and women, along with the large-scale attacks on civilian infrastructure, schools, hospitals, and homes, must be widely condemned by the international community. As mentioned in the Holy Quran, whoever saves a life, it is as if he saves the all mankind. Therefore, I believe we must collectively take concrete steps to end the bloodshed in Gaza Strip, stop the death of innocent people, and prevent the unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe unfolding there. In this regard, we support the efforts made by the global coalition initiated by brotherly nation Saudi Arabia to implement the two-state solution. Honorable heads of delegations, to prevent this crisis from spreading across the entire Middle East, we urge coordinated efforts on the following specific steps. First, to call on the United Nations Security Council and the General Assembly on behalf of the international community to take decisive measures to stop the violence in the Gaza Strip and resolve the conflict there. Second, to support and assist the international efforts led by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States aimed at bringing the conflicting parties to the negotiating table and implementing the two-state solution. Third, in light of the approaching winter season, we call on the governments of Israel to open border crossing to allow humanitarian aid to reach the people of Gaza. Kyrgyzstan has provided humanitarian aid in its turn to alleviate the suffering of the brothers and sisters in the Gaza Strip. On several occasions, we continuously continue our efforts to extend this support. Fourth, to call for the revitalization of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency of Palestine refugees in the Near East. Fifth, to work towards the recognition of the State of Palestine and East Jerusalem as its capital and its full membership in the United Nations, as well as to activate efforts with countries that have not yet recognized it. Honorable heads of states and delegations, honorable Muslim brothers and sisters, in the eyes of Allah Almighty, humans' life and blood are sacred. Therefore, in today's reality, we all bear responsibility before the Creator for every spilled drop of human blood. With this sense of responsibility, I call on us to extend all possible support to the struggling people of Palestine and work together to improve the situation in the region. For its part, the Kyrgyz Republic will continue to support all efforts aimed at achieving just and lasting peace throughout the Middle East. Thank you very much for your attention. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أشكر فخامة الرئيس صدير
I would like to thank you for your present for your word, and now I would like to ask for Nigeria to have their speech.
Your Excellencies, Your Majesty, the King Abdulaziz Al-Saad, the custodians of the two holy mosques, for convening this summit. I thank the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of the Kingdom. Your ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, Salaam Alaikum. It is with profound sense of duty that I call before you as we work to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and realize the two-state solution. This is urgent and very urgent. Conflict in Palestinian homeland has persisted for too long, inflicting immeasurable suffering on countless lives. As representative of nations that value justice, dignity, and the sanctity of human life, we have a moral obligation to collectively bring about immediate end to this conflict. It is not enough to issue condemnations. The work must work towards an end to this aggression in Gaza, which has persisted for too long. For too long, human lives, as you have heard, has been lost. No security concern should come at the expense of many innocent lives. In a rule-based international order, states have the right of self-defense. But self-defense must take opportunity, proportionality into account in line with global legal, diplomatic, and moral framework. An entire civilian population in their dreams and futures cannot be dismissed as collateral. Your Excellencies, Your Royal Majesties, the two-state solution stands as a beacon of hope. I agree, representing the right of both Israelis and Palestinians to self-determination and peace. It is not just a diplomatic article of faith, it is a vision grounded in principle of quality and mutual recognition. Achieving this vision requires a commitment to dialogue and deal-making in respect for history. We know this conflict did not begin in October 2023. It can only be resolved through principled compromise based on appreciation of the proper context. The conflict in the cradle of history is so visceral that the ripples of this division spread far and quickly. The corrosive impact of images of endless violence repeated on a billion smartphones around the world is huge. We need to find a new pathway to peace without delay. Nigeria has always championed the cause of peace and cooperation among nations. Our own experiences, domestically and regionally, have taught us that identity politics are no substitute for respecting the nuances of diversity. The path to reconciliation may be fraught with challenges, but it is through honest conversation and deal making that we can foster understanding. The international community has the opportunity to bear the new resolution. Your Highnesses, let us forget the human cost of this conflict. We must prioritize the voices of the families torn apart. The children who grew up in fear and the communities that for long rescue for stability. It is our responsibility to advocate for their rights, build a future where their dreams are no longer stifled by nightmare. I call upon all of us to come together in solidarity, to stand firm in our resolve, and to work towards peaceful coexistence, free from fear and violence. Together, we can turn the vision of a two-state solution into reality. I say until then, we cannot relent. Finally, Nigeria calls for a creation of a dedicated secretariat. Thank you, Our Royal Majesty. Please do this on a long-term basis so that the selected head of government who travel globally can first support, oversee the implementation of the summit's resolution, and provide regular report to joint OIC and Arab leadership until permanent peace is achieved. So I submit. I thank you all for listening. Salam alaikum.
أشكر فخامة
Thank His Excellency Mr. Bolan Ahmed Dedgono for his speech. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, and now we will take a break for 30 minutes to when lunch will be served, and then we'll return to the session. Thank you.